TikTok. Time is running out for the social platform known as TikTok. Hi everyone, I'm Don Lemon. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, and I couldn't help myself with that one. So TikTok is owned by the Chinese, and it is targeted by every government in America, state, local, and federal. With access to your personal data and controlling the words and images on the world's fastest growing social network. My next guest, well, you know him as Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. He's the most ruthless, most brutal, most bloodthirsty shark on ABC Shark Tank. He's a Canadian entrepreneur, a financier, a television star, and a self-made millionaire. He wants to buy TikTok. Lately, though, he's also taking aim at New York's Attorney General Letitia James, calling her civil fraud lawsuit against Donald Trump a, quote, attack on America. He wants to speak to Joe Biden about TikTok, and he says he's already spoken to Donald Trump. But the question is, will he help Trump with his legal bills? Well, let's find out. Kevin, thank you so much for being here. I just want to jump right into it, if that's okay with you, all right?
Absolutely.
So, listen, you've been in headlines everywhere this last week that you're eyeing a purchase of TikTok. I mean, why do you want to buy that platform?
170 million users, 5 million of them small businesses, spending $9 billion a year advertising for customer acquisition and selling goods and services. There is no network, Don, bigger than this in America. This is a giant network, and it's going to be a forced sale unless the Chinese decide to just shut it off like they did in India. And I definitely think you have to think about stewardship. How do you transfer this from being TikTok China into TikTok USA? Who are they going to trust to do that? I would hope someone they know. 85% of that 170 million people are entrepreneurs. Yep, those are the Shark Tank fans in ages of 19, 20, 30s, and 40s trying to start businesses. It's one of the fastest growing entrepreneurial platforms and the #1 destination for my ad spend now for all of my startup companies.
Okay, I want to talk, you're a very smart businessman. I want to get into that considering the purchase price of this thing. But let me just lean into something you said. You mentioned China because many people, including senators, members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, they have really expressed concerns about TikTok's Chinese ownership, that it compromises this platform and that platform. I want you to compare that to, you know, what is happening with other platforms, including X. But so if you're concerned about the Chinese and all of this, then why do it? How are they out of it? Will they have any connection to this platform if you buy it?
So here's the challenge. And by the way, this narrative regarding Chinese control of the algorithm has been on since 2020. This would be the 4th time that this has been pushed through an attempted forced sale. And there's a good reason for it. Now, first of all, let me preface my comments saying I have nothing against the Chinese people. I think they are marvelous people. From the millennium, bringing to culture and science, I don't trust the Chinese government, and apparently doesn't Congress either. And so the way I look at it is, yes, TikTok leaks American data to the Chinese Communist Party. 100% that happens every day. This is my TikTok phone, Don. It's a burner phone. It is completely void of any relevant information. The only app on it is TikTok. I don't trust the Chinese either. So I'm not going to give them my data. They're not going to get it, but I have to monitor my advertising spend on TikTok, and I do with this burner phone. There's a reason it's been banned in most corporations and certainly the government. Nobody trusts the Chinese. That's their own fault. They don't reciprocate anything. And frankly, as I've watched this unfold for the last couple of years, I really believe that the Chinese understand the stick. Okay. If we don't get reciprocal rights on everything from the court system to protecting IP to bringing our own apps into their market, selling goods and services on a level playing field, I say give them the stick.
Okay.
Everywhere, the stick.
Okay.
They love the stick, they want the stick, give them the stick. I'm okay with it.
What do you mean by the stick? Explain to our audience what you mean by the stick.
Keep pressuring them. If we can't litigate our IP in China, either can they in the United States. If they will not audit or allow us to audit their public companies trading on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, let's just delist them. I have to pay to be compliant with my companies as a regulated entity in the U.S., and the Chinese don't? Are you kidding? Cut them off. Shut them down.
Okay.
Don't let them have access to our markets. I think this is the right, because believe me, when they start to see that pressure from any administration, because they understand the stick, they know the stick, they bow to the stick, we'll get what we want.
Okay, so then if you buy it, then is there no concern anymore about the Chinese or about, about people having our information, so to speak, or users' information, or people's private information being compromised? Is that no longer?
Well, you're asking the exact right question here. Think about the value stacks this way. In the concept of what is TikTok worth to a buyer, if you're able to buy TikTok, the brand name, the 170 million users, and the algorithm, maybe that's worth 80 to 100 billion. After all, it's spinning off 9 billion of revenue, and I can make it more profitable because they're not really eyeing free cash flow there. They just want US data. That's what many people think. However, most people think the Chinese are not going to let the algorithm transfer into American hands. That's where all the value is. So what's it worth without the algorithm? 30 billion maybe, 20 billion, 35 billion, who knows? We'll find out in the competition of different syndicates that want to buy it. That means I have to rewrite the entire algorithm because I want to make sure the night I turn the switch from TikTok China to TikTok USA, you don't notice the difference as an advertiser at all. And I want to increase revenues. So I have to bring a US management team, US board, and I have to rewrite that algorithm to make sure that there's no leaking to the Chinese at all. I have to guarantee this is going to be a unique deal, Don, because you're going to need the White House on board. Yeah. You're going to need national security advisors on board. I've already started that process. There's no point in thinking you're going to win this bid unless you have the backing of whoever's going to be in the White House. Okay. So you might as well talk to them both right now. And I've already had that conversation this week with Donald Trump.
Okay, you have.
Yes,
that conversation with Donald Trump. Will you please hold that thought, because I want to talk to you about it, but I just want to get to some other things before I get into that. I don't know if you saw me writing notes. I was writing down White House, National Security Advisor, and now Donald Trump I'm going to write down because I want to talk to you about, is that why you feel the way you feel about his court cases? But stand by for that. How do you feel in this algorithm thing? So just yes or no, you're sure that you can, I hate to say this Chinese wall, but with the algorithm, that they will have no access to it if you rewrite the algorithm. Americans don't have to worry about that.
That's right. I'll rewrite it with American hands. And basically, I think I found the group to do this. This is a complicated deal. Okay. I mean, it's not going to get sold in 6 months. There's no way. I think this thing's going to get punted down the road till after the election. Who's ever in the White House, they're going to have to approve this sale. It's going to have to be a syndicate of buyers. I'm going to guess no one owner more than 10% or 15% of the cap table. Everybody knows the 12 to 15 pools of capital that you're going to need to bring in a $30, $40 billion syndicate. It's who should actually run the deal. Okay. Who do you trust to deliver a Chinese-free platform? And how can you make this more profitable by bolstering everybody's, I think, concerns, or getting rid of the concerns that this is a Chinese problem. I want American small businesses that I invest in, and all small businesses in America, to be safe on this.
You're sounding like a politician now, selling your platform.
I am a politician when it comes to this deal.
Okay, all right, good. Listen, so then you're a very wealthy man, Kevin O'Leary. I know that. But you have just said it's worth 20 billion, maybe 30 billion, without the algorithm. Quickly, what do you think it's worth with the algorithm?
Well, that's a really interesting jump ball, because I'm not sure that you're going to convince Congress, who's very concerned about this algorithm. I've talked to plenty of members of Congress and the Senate about this. ByteDance is owned 60% by foreign investors. And so if they don't get a sale, these guys are going to zero. Okay. So they're very motivated. But if I could convince Congress, and I'll tell you my chances of doing this, to let me keep 10% in the hands of China, and I'll clean up the algorithm, I'd rather get the algorithm. But I rose that up the flagpole last week, and everybody I talked to in Congress said never. Never. That's never going to happen.
Okay.
Never.
So then you're a very wealthy man. How are you going to $40 billion? Can you afford that?
No one man can afford $40 billion. That's very difficult, or very few men can and shouldn't. That's just too much concentration on one asset. I have to syndicate it. It'll be pension plans, it'll be sovereign wealth funds. There's lots of interest. I mean, everybody knows who these people are, and you have to go through the CFIUS loop, you know that, if you're bringing in money from foreign entities. And when I soft-pedaled this to Congress, they said, look, if you want to bring in algorithm code from other countries that are not foreign adversaries, we're okay with that. So if you found a Swiss developer or someone from Denmark or France or Canada, they would be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're going to have to bring pieces of technology together to actually keep this thing mounted in service in the United States. But that's not the problem right now. The problem right now is Schumer in the Senate. Is he going to bring this forward before the election? I don't think so.
Okay.
We're going to have to deal with this after the election, and therefore, you're going to be beholden to who's ever in the White House after the election to get the deal done.
Okay, listen. So I want you to compare this to X. That's that's Elon Musk's digital platform or social media platform. And it has caused intense controversy, I should say. Do you think the digital town squares, any of them like these, should be owned by one person or one organization who the person owns the microphone and the speakers and the volume?
Well, you've brought up an interesting point, and it's the only comparable private equity has to recent trades like this. So let's just go and look at Twitter, because it's only months old. Came onto the market for debt and equity syndication at a $44 billion valuation. All right, let's leave the ownership out of it for a second. Let's just talk finance.
Yeah.
It got syndicated in a combination of debt and financing at a $44 billion. If you took this platform public today, my guess is it would trade between 16 and 12 billion. So you've lost 2/3 of your money. That has not been lost in investors that are eyeing the TikTok deal. Now, what happened between when it was worth 44 billion and it's now worth 12 to 16? Maybe the market corrected a little bit, but also the new ownership started tweaking the algorithm, changing the interface with users, changing how advertisers engage with the platform. And 2/3 of value is wiped out. I cannot let that happen on my watch with TikTok. I have to make this transition seamless, and I have to convince the investors, including myself, that I can do it. And in order to do that, I've got to get a seamless transaction through the algorithm that makes TikTok even better than it is now for advertisers.
But my
the revenue
question
comes
is,
from advertisers.
Okay, but my question is, when you talk about that algorithm, look, Elon Musk and X and whomever, I mean, it would be the same thing for Mark Zuckerberg. They control the algorithm. They can play with it as they want. They can, suppress people. They can amplify people. So my question again is, do you think it is okay for one person, one man, to be able to have so much control, to control the microphone, the speakers, and the volume? That's my question.
Well, Don, you're part of the Twitter story, the ongoing Twitter story. Whether you like it or not, you're right there. Everybody knows that. Is it a good thing or bad thing? Who cares? You can't change the past. You're part of it, and you're definitely part of that narrative. Now, do I think private ownership should be allowed of any asset in America? Hell yes. That's what the economy is all about. If Elon Musk wants to spend $44 billion of his own and syndicated debt and equity, yes, he can. And the market will decide whether that was a good or bad decision. That's how our system works. So
Okay.
I'm 100% okay with what he did. And he is definitely supporting the narrative of being compliant.
Okay.
Now, that has nothing to do with whether he should be the only owner or control the volume and all the rest of that stuff. He paid for it. It's his deal. He can do what he wants.
Okay.
That is the American way, and I'm okay with it.
Okay, great. So then what is your read on, because you talked about the valuation, what is your read on what is going on or wrong with X? Because the value has dropped a lot. Advertisers are fleeing. How would you fix it? And what's up? Why is that happening?
I never count that guy out, ever. I mean, look at what he's achieved in his life, and he's only, halfway through it. I think he'll fix it. It's how much time he can spend on it. I'm an advertiser, so every Tuesday morning, I look at every digital platform. And during the, let's call it controversial period, we were not advertising on Twitter, but we don't turn it off in perpetuity. Mm-hmm. We keep looking at what CAC and ROAS is. Obviously, the cost of acquiring a customer, that's CAC, and the return on advertised spend, that's ROAS. We found some very attractive numbers on Twitter, and we'll probably go back into it at some point. He's got to settle down the advertisers, bring them back on board. It's still a very important platform. It stopped growing for a while, but I want you to note, Don, in the last 2 weeks, because we monitor this daily for engagement and growth, Twitter started growing for us again across our portfolio companies. So something's going right in there, and we'll continue to monitor it. We have no loyalty to any one platform. We are promiscuous advertisers. I spend millions every month on an aggregate of buys across every platform, including cable, remnant network, every single social media platform, and all I care about is almost a song in our office. CAC and ROAS, CAC and ROAS. We look for the best CAC and ROAS. Whoever has it, they get the next 7 days worth of spending. So am I a social media whore? 100%. I look for CAC and ROAS, and I'm proud to say it.
Oh my gosh, only you. Only you, Kevin. So listen, you said on Fox Business that you had spoken to Donald Trump about TikTok. You know, he was, during his presidency, was China, China, China. He wasn't so high on them, but now he seems to like TikTok somehow. What did he say to you?
I talked to him. I said, look, I want to buy TikTok. I understand it's a national security issue. Are you okay with me buying it? He said, I don't know what the Senate's going to do. What are you going to do about that? I said, I don't know either. What do you think? He said, I don't know. You're going to have to wait to see what the Senate does. I don't think it's at the top of his agenda list for the next 8 months. I don't think it's at the top of Biden's list either. I think they're going to punt it, and the way they're going to do it is just Schumer's going to stall. They got other issues right now, like a budget and keeping the government open and everything else. So I think, you know, this got a 48-hour cycle, but it's not going to go away.
What did he say to you?
This issue will continue to fester. No, he didn't have a problem with me buying it. I just wanted to know when the time comes. That's all I care about. Okay. If he said to me, you know, Kevin, I don't want you buying TikTok, I'd stop. Because he has a 50-50 chance of getting in the White House. When I call Biden's people, I'll ask the same question. Are you good with me buying TikTok? Because when I fly around the world raising the capital, I have to be able to look at the investors in the eye and say whoever wins the White House, they're good with me leading a syndicate. I have to have that. I have to know that. And so they're not going to take that risk. Well, people are very concerned about who's going to run the show on this syndicate.
Okay, so is this why you appear, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, appear to be supporting Donald Trump? Because here's what you said. You've said in the past few days that the Trump civil trial verdict is, quote, an attack on America. You know, he's been ordered to pay $454 million to the state of New York. Why do you say it's an attack on America? And is this why you're saying that? Or is this why you're supporting him? Because you want someone who is supportive of you buying TikTok?
No. Don, don't even put those words near your mouth, because I am not a partisan investor. I am bipartisan. I spend almost 10 days a month right now walking up and down the aisles in Congress. Every congressman and woman and senator knows I support small business. Red, blue, any color you want. We represent, my small businesses in America represent 62% of job creation. Not 50. 62. And what I've been watching lately in Congress and watching these bills, for example, Science and Chips and the Inflation Reduction Act, I didn't see any money in there for my guys. And so I started making noise. And they took my meetings, both sides. They know I don't have a partisan bone in my body. I'm on a mission to support small business. Everybody knows that. So whether it's Biden or Trump, I'm agnostic, but I need the go-ahead from either side. Yeah. Because this is a complicated deal. Now, regarding this Trump situation in New York, let me finish that thought. It has nothing to do with Trump. Nothing. That story is over. That trial happened, it's over. And I think the problem now is how financial services and investors around the world are watching what's happening in New York. And here's why. The reason we're the #1 economy on earth, and the reason I'm able to attract $30, $40, $50 billion to put it to work here in America is most sovereign wealth funds and investors in any country anywhere trust our economy, trust our system, trust our laws, trust our transparency, trust our property rights. And what is occurring in New York now is there's an attack on all of those. And that, my friend, is un-American.
Okay,
and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Let me follow up on that, because on this civil trial ruling thing, because you said that you will no longer invest in New York. I'm wondering if that's just a bluster, or do you think this ruling will truly hurt New York business and real estate?
We're in the middle of this thing. You know, remember, I'm just one investor, but I talk to many of them. Nobody would put money or big money to work in a project in New York right now until this circus is over. They got to find out how this is going to play out. The way most people are looking at this, Don, and this is really bipartisan, and this is global in stature, they're watching this, and just to give you an analogy, I look at it like a bunch of kids played dress up in court, and the parents were out of the house, and they were having a house party, and they went nuts. The parents now need to come home and fix this mess, because this makes no sense. Shouldn't we allow anybody that has been put through a situation, and my question is, and many are asking this all around the world, does the penalty reflect the infraction? Regardless of the trial, I don't care about Donald Trump on this. Is it right to charge $500 million against an infraction where there were no monetary losses?
Okay,
and so
wait,
that's question.
I've heard that, Kevin.
I know we can debate that.
I've heard that.
If there should be a monetary infraction or a penalty, which sounds like there will be, should it be $500 million? Because there's never been a $500 million bond. So that means this case can't get an appeal.
Listen,
it can't get an appellate.
I want to go through everything. Remember, this is streaming. We have a long time. So let's go through your first point, and then you can make your second point, and we'll get it in there. So, but you said there's no monetary, and they always say there's no victims. But is that not true? Because it's the taxpayers of New York that did not get the money from Donald Trump, allegedly, or like found guilty of lowering the value of properties so that he could get away with not paying taxes. Aren't the victims the citizens of New York City?
Well, there's never been this law applied this way ever in the last 75 years. This law was used decades ago to protect consumers from salesmen selling overpriced refrigerators. It was never applied to real estate development.
So you think it's selective prosecution?
And frankly, and I'd argued this way back when this narrative started, and I must tell you, I'm very proud to be part of this narrative, and it has nothing to do with Trump. I am glad we're having this debate, you and I, right now, and it's being debated openly in discourse everywhere, not just domestically, but all around the world, because this looks like the improper use of a law to impute an incredibly heavy fine that I assume will be tested by the Eighth Amendment before this is over. Because one of the great amendments in the Constitution that protects our economy and makes us the bastion of capitalism is the Eighth Amendment, which protects against outcomes like this. And it hasn't been tested yet. My only beef, Don, and even I'll give it to you, if you want to claim all these concerns about New York taxpayers, great, but shouldn't this get an appeal process like anybody else gets? Or should all of the assets be seized? Is that a good look on New York for investors around the world? Is that a good look on America? Is that the message we want to send to people in Switzerland and in United Arab Emirates and in France and in Denmark, places I'll be going to raise capital next week? They're all asking me the same question. When are the adults coming back to New York?
Okay.
Where are the adults?
Okay, but listen, but if Trump is found liable of
he already has
it's a civil trial.
That's
okay, so
done.
That's what I'm saying. If he has been found liable in a civil trial and he's gone through due process, why shouldn't he pay? Don't you think the government would do this with anyone, or you think it's selective prosecution? But if he has been found liable, which he has, then why shouldn't he pay?
Don't you think he deserves, or anybody that gets us in an extraordinary situation should have due process? Seizing assets?
You don't think he's had due process? It's been adjudicated.
It's been 22 days, Don. 22 days. Even in a bankruptcy, you get more time than that. 22 days. No, that's ludicrous.
I'm not an attorney, but does the law allow for that?
Those are the children in the house party. There are children downstairs. The parents haven't come home yet. That's ridiculous. You must be kidding me.
But I'm not an attorney, or I'm not sure if you are or not. But if that is allowable in the law, of course, then he should get due process. Of course.
Well, I'm just telling you, many people, both Democrats and Republicans, do not feel comfortable about the way this is being run. I think the analogy of kids in dress-up court is a good one, and we should all get an adult in the room to figure this out. Because if this stands and all these assets are seized, that is not a good look on America. I'm sorry. Maybe this Attorney General can giggle in glee, but she just destroyed the pillar of confidence in the American financial transparent system that makes us the #1 economy on earth. And nobody is worth doing that for.
Okay, let's move on then and ask, because this is, it's about a lot of money, okay? There is a massive fundraiser that's coming up for the Trump campaign. It's on April 6th. by the way. It's in Palm Beach. Do you plan on being there, and do you plan on donating, Kevin?
I don't attend partisan events, Don, ever. I attend events where I can support small business. That's what I do. I stay right down the middle. The minute I go partisan, I don't have the narrative on both sides that I need. You know what's great about supporting small business? I haven't found anybody, including Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or AOC, that doesn't want to support a small business. Everybody likes to support small business because they have them in their own, right in their constituency, they've got small business. Those people vote. And I think that's what matters. So if you're going to hold a rally for small business, I'll be the keynote. But if you want to get into partisan politics, that's no good for me.
Well, are you going to donate?
I'm just making a point. I'm just saying, look, you're not going to pigeonhole me with Biden or Trump. Not going to happen, Don.
Okay, so
keep trying, but don't waste your time.
I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. Look, again, I'm asking you questions. You said you're not attending. I understand that. I understand that the only party that you belong to is a Green Party, and I mean money. That's the party that's most attractive to you.
I belong to the party of that entrepreneur next door here in Miami that is working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, trying to get their business started. That's
okay.
1/3 of America.
I don't think anyone disagrees with you about small business owners.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, but are you going to donate is my part of my question as well.
I stay out of that game. You look at how many entrepreneurs I support by investing in them, and all
is that a no,
the
Kevin?
different the different societies that support entrepreneurship. That's where my money goes.
Okay, so that's a no. You're not donating, correct?
I don't donate on either side. I don't want to get nailed for partisanship.
Okay, so listen, then. If you're not going to, you're saying you're not going to donate any money to Donald Trump to help pay for his legal bills?
To either side, Don.
Okay.
I don't get in partisan politics. I am down the middle.
All right, I just want to be clear about it. Okay, the Green Party, the Money Party.
I've answered that question 4 times.
I just want to I want to be clear. So listen,
you got to be clear now.
Why haven't we seen more prominent wealthy Americans jump in and support the Trump campaign as it relates to the campaign and even these legal bills? Why haven't we seen more wealthy Americans do it?
I'm not sure that's correct. I think the campaign, both sides are doing well in small incremental amounts. We are in such a partisan place in America now. It's just virolic. You know this. And you know what I've been saying to everybody, and I must say in my few minutes in talking with Trump, and I'm going to say the same thing to Biden, I'd like to put up my hand and ask both sides to start focusing on policy so we can make a choice on policy. I'd like to know border security. I'd like to know energy independence. I really would like to understand foreign policy, and I really want to understand the tax plan. I've got a taste of the Biden plan. I'm pro-business, so I want more policy. And I think we're going to start to see it in the next 6 weeks, Don. We're going to start to see ads about, here's my position on border security. Here's my position on foreign policy. Here's my position on taxation. Here's where I stand on energy. And, you know, let me give you a point that I'm interested in discussing with both sides. The ANWR, that's a place in Alaska that has so much oil that we could significantly reduce our national debt by just putting a royalty on it and let them extract that oil for our economy and get ourselves to total energy independence and not worry about Russia or the Saudi Arabians or anybody else. And we could also take maybe 20% of our debt and reduce it over the next 5 years. Why aren't we talking about that? Why does it always have to be something just acidic and partisan? We've got $34 trillion of debt. And governments on both sides that want to spend. How about we come up with some revenue ideas? What about that idea?
Well, all right, let's talk about this because the importance you said of social media, of streaming, of digital content. You are obviously a fantastic businessman. You're also pretty prominent you're a pretty prominent media personality. You have a show that runs on linear TV, broadcast cable, television as well, CNBC, I think. That type of media, though, seems to be on the decline. It's shrinking. Streaming and social has been touted to be the way of the future. Here are 2 things that I'm wondering in this conversation with you. At first, I just wanted you to give us some insight. But do you think the powers that be understand what is happening with this media, the amount of money that's available in this media, and how important it is to the economy? Do you think they get it, whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden or our leaders in Washington?
100%. 100%. In the last 3 years, what every politician has figured out, because they are just the way our system works, they have to raise money, that media and social media have intersected. And there's been almost a transition, because you just think about a show like Shark Tank. I'm so proud of that platform. Many young entrepreneurs watch that on streaming. They watch it on streaming services. They'd never watch it on network or never watched it on remnant cable or on syndication. That's just the nature of what they do. My own world has changed dramatically. I have 8.6 million followers on different platforms. I have to feed them content every day on my own network. That's a lot of work.
Yes.
And I do it to support my 54 companies that are in our portfolio. They call my team every day saying, please, you know where I am right now? I'm on a set shooting a commercial for one of my companies. I've been here since 5 in the morning. I had to do hair and makeup, maybe in my case just makeup. But the point is, we've shot 5 different commercials. How many for television? 1. 4 others for social media.
Okay.
That's the ratio now, Don, 4 to 1.
I have to tell you, as I was on the subway today, it's the fastest way to get around New York City, because you know if you're in a black car now, you're in traffic forever. So I'm on the subway. This young lady comes up to me and she says, I saw your interview with Elon Musk on TikTok. It was great. And I'm like, wow. No one ever said that to me when I was in linear television, right? There's like, I saw you on, you know, whatever network that you worked on. So my question is, give us some insight into that, because digital has surpassed broadcast, the broadcast medium. Some insight as to where you think this is going.
Well, I can only look at my spend every month. It's about 50% digital, 50% television. Television includes network and cable, and a lot of remnant cable. There's a tremendous, you know, I got to tell you something, Don, you're making a great observation because you're watching these trends occur. But what I found is television still works, and so, but it's challenging because when I started to buy TV, I didn't have buying power. And so I realized when I went to a network and said, look, I want to buy, you know, $1 million worth of 15s, $1 million worth of 30s. I didn't have scale, because I'm competing with Procter & Gamble or the car companies. So I got smart about it. I aggregated my buying across all of my companies, and I went back to them and I said, okay, I'll give you $5 million for next week, and I'll decide which company goes on what 15 at what time, and I'll serve it up. That's a new product, a new service I've created from my portfolio that deals with the problem you're bringing up with, called Wonder Ads. That's what it does. I'm ripping off Richard Branson with all the Virgin stuff because he told me to do it. I met him a few years ago. He said, call your businesses Wonder, because everybody knows you as Mr. Wonderful. They don't even know your name. So Wonder Ads is aggregating buys specifically for streaming and television because of what you said. We're watching this transition. And I use other agencies for digital. I spend a ton of money, and I want to get the lowest CAC and the highest ROAS. CAC and ROAS, CAC and ROAS.
Could you spare us, please, Kevin O'Leary? I'm
having fun with you, Don. I'm really
I know
this.
you are. Look, I always enjoy our interactions, and this is the way it should be. People should hash it out and talk the way that you and I talk. I appreciate it. What do you think your chances are of acquiring TikTok?
Better than 50%. I don't think anybody else can come to the table that as many users know. And I think, you know, I represent a nonpartisan supporter of small business, and that's what TikTok's all about. I think it's a fantastic network. I want to own it. I'm going to bring a team together to manage it. I'm going to bring the money to the table. Nothing starts until the Senate passes the bill. And then I got to fly to the White House, who's ever in there, and say, look, here's my plan. Please approve it. Here's how I'll deal with national security. This is going to be the craziest, hairiest, complicated deal you've ever seen. I love it.
All right, and you're going to come and talk to us about it. And I want you to be a regular on this program.
Don, the thing won't even start until January next year, probably.
Okay, listen, this is a total left turn, right? I want to ask you about this because I don't know if we talked about this at my other show or not. We're watching these weight loss drugs like Mounjaro and Ozempic in that industry. And Scott Galloway says he believes that industry will have more influence on the economy than AI because it is the way of the future. People want to lose weight. People will weigh less. You know, airlines will spend less money on fuel, and cars will spend less money on fuel, and on and on and on, yada, yada, yada. Do you agree with that? What do you see going forward when it comes to this weight loss industry? You saw Oprah had a big special the other night on ABC about this.
I believe it, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the major cause of diabetes, which is life-altering if you just let it affect your life for a long period of time, it's obesity. And anything that can reduce that, you know, I'll draw the analogy, Don. 40 years ago, the drug that became a standard even with doctors in dealing with cholesterol, which was a systemic problem for plaque and heart attacks and early life loss, it was cholesterol, and it was statins. Today, I've been on statins for 30 years. And I think if this drug, you know, I was forced to lose weight. I'm 30 pounds less than I was 5 years ago. So my doctor said to me, look, your blood pressure's too high. We've tried everything, every medicine. You're just too fat. And if you don't lose weight and change your lifestyle, you're going to stroke out early and you won't be so wonderful anymore. That's extremely motivating. I mean, when it comes down to that, I did change my life. I did lose 32 pounds and I feel much better. Longevity is around keeping yourself in a place where you're not obese. And so if this drug does that, and it comes in an oral form, which is being promised within 24 months, I think it's going to be altering and probably have more effect and as equal economic effect as AI does. I totally agree with that. This is a fantastic advance in our pharmaceutical research, which is why we should not starve our pharma companies of capital through some kind of punitive government program. They came up with this because they risked billions of dollars. No other country, they did. And they commercialized it, they did. And that's what makes America so fantastic. I hate it when people try and fix something that's working. You got me going off on government regulation, which I don't like in any sector.
Our government is bloated. It needs to lose weight. Maybe it should go on Ozempic. But listen, here's what I want to ask you. Did you use a weight loss drug?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's it. Kevin O'Leary.
You know my weight loss? It's my bike in Miami every morning at 6:45 with 1,000 other bikers, 12 miles on the boardwalk. It's fantastic. We watch the sunrise. We're on our phones doing business. I just love it. This is why I live in Miami. This place understands weight loss.
We should all be so lucky. Kevin O'Leary, best of luck to you. We'll see you back on this program soon.
Always a pleasure, Don.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure. Take care, my friend.
You too. Thanks for watching The Don Lemon Show. Make sure you click on the image in the top right to subscribe to my channel and the thumbnail in the bottom right to watch more content from my show. And I'll see you next time.